All systems go as we continue our journey forward into unknown worlds. I look out forward, but I'm not looking at outer space here. I'm looking somewhere else, and that, my friends, is the destination, the direction of our destination. Welcome back, Artist Journal, July 24th, 2024. Broadcasting from Berlin, Germany. My name's Adrian Pocobelli. Once again, my first words of the morning to you, my good friends. Thank you for all the support on this show, and thank you for coming back and watching. I hope you're enjoying it, because I am astonished. Like, the reason why I struggle to make this show shorter, I was determined, totally determined today, but it's very hard when you have such amazing work, and you're going to see, and I have trimmed down, as you may have noticed from earlier episodes that were going above 90 minutes. So it continues to be a struggle in that regard, but wow. In a sense, what a great problem to have too much exciting, interesting content here. Now, this was fabulous. I think it was actually Unknown Collector who put out a brilliant, beautiful, just thread of, he does it every day. And as far as I understand, at least weekdays, and maybe it's every day, I'm not sure, but he put out an awesome thread. This was in it, and of course, we remember work similar to this. The AI Mickeys would be my sort of short form, loose hand way of describing it. Inigo Bilbao, Crikey is the series. This is part of Fake Whale Gallery. We saw, and I'll show you here, maybe I'll just go to them right now and look at how beautiful these are. We saw earlier versions, or we saw this version before. Remember this show? Excuse me. Remember this show? This was 5 months ago. I honestly thought it was last summer. That's how, people talk about time in this space. I even feel like I look younger. It's like a younger Adrian. Hilarious. Anyway, the dunamis of AI. How could I forget that one? Only 5 months ago. It must be 6. So we did see this work here before, but it was never minted. And it was brilliant, as we saw. And kind of an unforgettable work, actually. There were a couple, so I wonder if this was the other one. I have to say, though, I do not remember this one. And it's just such a stunning, beautiful, raw AI artwork that, again, when the skeptics come, and for those that don't know, this is, an important term. Raw AI is when basically there have been no alterations from the AI output. It was pure AI. It is raw AI. And I believe that's written here. Raw AI output. So these wonderful outputs, and look at how big they are. Maybe we can zoom in. For those that are skeptic of what AI does and is, and actually we have a great space today with Lily Illo. I don't know if this is going to be excuse me, if this is going to be uploaded before the space, so hopefully though, but if it will be recorded though. So and that's also, Lily Illo is a great AI artist, but for those that are kind of skeptical on what AI can do, I mean, look at this. This looks like, again, if you were to see this as a physical, as actually Fake Whale was showing it, this, AI Mickey, for lack of better terms. I mean, there is a title. Actually, there isn't. There is kind of. These two white dots here. Raw AI output 4600 by 6000, so massive file, edition of 1. Just awesome. Inigo Bilbao, who makes actually quite a bit of AI art, and unfortunately, let me just see if I can reconnect here. Unfortunately, we can't bring up their page right now, and we should actually run through this show in case we have more technical difficulties. Okay, we're good. We are good. The internet has been playing very nicely, I have to say. So far, let's not jinx it. So, doing a lot of black and white work, but here, kind of more in what we might consider like a photographic style, right? So, very interesting. Has work also on super rare. But these like 3D, or sorry, these 2D, kind of almost like an animation is extra flat, you might say, but with all this like insanely beautiful texture here, you have to marvel. I suspect this is just blend. I think it's you take Mickey and you take some sort of beautiful physical work, use the blend command, and boom, we got lucky. Maybe it is pressing a button, but to the point, and hopefully the video unfreezes here. Will the video unfreeze? Is it going to be that kind of day here? We are trying. I am waiting. Okay, we're back. We're back. Okay. Don't really have time to restart here. Thank you. Scotch tapes and scissors over here, my friends. Okay, so all to say, just awesome artist, has work on super rare. These Mickeys are really head-turning works, and I have to say, so this is Fake Whale Gallery, right? Exhibition. This is part of the gallery exhibition feature, shall we call it, on Object. I haven't seen other galleries, which I kind of wonder about. But again, I'm always like, Fake Whale's a big, they've done a lot for this community. I look forward to minting a work on Fake Whale. And they've offered, and it's great, and I'm putting something together, trying to figure out what makes sense. But I don't understand why Fake Whale, as far as I understand, is the only one with a gallery here. Like, I think of Michele Colonna, who has his gallery. I would imagine he would want one here. Like, so I don't understand what's going on here, the relationship. I keep asking myself. I just wonder out loud, and it's not necessarily anything good or bad. It's just, I just wonder. Because I don't see other galleries, and I don't know why they wouldn't let other, or, so who knows? Anyways, I'm sure, the people at Object know what they're doing. So I'm sure they have their reasons, and I assume they'll open it up at some point. But it has been going here, as you see, since at least February 7th. And remember, so there is also the Mickey there. So the Mickey is back. And here, again, just awesome. Let's just take a close look here at really the power of AI in simulating physical work. And what's interesting as well, these are almost like if you saw someone make this physically, and I think I made this point on the earlier YouTube video, if you saw someone make this physically, you might think they were a genius. Like, at least I might. I would be like, especially like, again, this first work here, if someone made this and could consistently make more, and we have a couple here, I would go, this person's like a visual arts genius. So my point is this starts to look even better than the real thing, right? So again, when you go back to all these criticisms of, oh, this and oh, that about AI, like to me, it's just like, I look at the result, and I just go, this is so interesting. Like, what's the problem here? And maybe my oversimplistic way, even like, and it's so interesting. It's so now. These Mickeys, it's like taking this, very famous icon here and AIing it. It's AIing it, if we can turn AI into a verb. This one looks burnt, interestingly. 0 editions. Not sure what's going on there. So all to say, yeah, there's a 0. Interesting. I'm glad we have it, and we can see it, though. So all to say, rad artwork. Of course, this one we saw in this show here. So this one we're familiar with. For those that haven't seen it, look at how great this looks. And again, you see almost like the smudges here, pretty astonishing. And this isn't like some 1,000 by 1,000 square output here either. Look at that. Look at that. So remember, we see Rafik Anadol in the front of MoMA. I mean, I think this, like, I would curate, like, and, yeah, let's just say, like, if I was, these are kind of works, strange thing. These are the works that are flying under the radar, frankly, is I think what's going on here. Your free art consultation, and I believe this is going to go for 350 Tezos, this one of one. I mean, what is that, $270? So let's see how, fast you can be on the draw. That I think it's what said, there was a tweet. It's going to be listed for that little. So pretty amazing. So let's continue here. Rad artist Inigo Bilbao. Crikey is the series. You can find it on Tezos, Object, continuing to deliver. And I'm not sure. Actually had a dev reach out to me from Object, I believe, and asking me about my notifications issue. I had no problem today. So that is awesome. And we may get a new feature in the notifications as well, which I'm incredibly excited about. Coming up, Lily Illo on AI and digital art. Super excited about that. Lily Illo out of Australia. We're going to talk AI art. Of course, many of you are familiar with Lily Illo, and here is one of her incredible AI art paintings, massively prolific and everything. So come check that out. Where there's going to be the recording if you're watching this after 3:30 Eastern time, or Central European time, or 9:30 Eastern time. Let's look at the comments of last show. I started with Rosetio there, Rune Tune, and I brought up more Kant. Don't worry, Rune. I brought up more Kant just for you. Geez, you really don't like Kant. Lol. Yeah, I was too harsh on Kant from a personal perspective. I even wondered to myself, like, it's very important to question your own kind of views. I even wondered to myself, like, was that an ad hominem attack, if I'm pronouncing that right? I think I am, where you attack the character of the person rather than the arguments? I wondered that to myself, and then I thought, no, if someone's going to comment on art, it does factor in, let's say, the never having a relationship of that we know of, that I know of, and that could be a myth. Like, I'm not an expert here, or not, kind of, I don't know if this is apocryphal or not, staying within the 5 to 10, 20 kilometer radius of his little town. I think it was Bonn, but I could be wrong about that, in Germany. Maybe it's Prussia. I don't even know, right? But it does factor in, because we were talking about Kant, and I actually brought up just a couple of questions that I asked ChatGPT. And what kind of, one of the things that kind of struck me about Kant's view of the sublime, and we're going to take a quick look at it very quickly. Where's the Dionysian? Was what I was kind of asking myself. Like, when I look at a waffles, I kind of see a drunkenness to a certain degree. Where is the drunk poet? I don't see it. Remember, we were talking about the Phaedrus and, the technical poet who's all refined with knows all the rules and practices, blah, blah, is utterly eclipsed by and I actually have the right translation here. I wonder if I have it bookmarked. I hope so. Is utterly eclipsed. Here it is. I found it. Can you believe I found it? So this edition, I highly recommend, of the Phaedrus. But if a person, written here man, but we'll call him person, but if a person comes to the door of poetry untouched by the madness of the muses, believing that technique alone will make them a good poet, he and his sane compositions never reach perfection, but are utterly eclipsed by the performances of the inspired madman. Where is that in Kant, is my kind of preface question as we go back. Like, in this very tidy, again, very, Apollonian, I would argue, view of art. It feels very clean and, sacred, but where's the profane to a certain degree? Like, half of this whole puzzle is missing, and that's not even to mention the mass media. There's no mass media back then, at least not in the way that we think of it. And so I'm kind of back to how is it kind of, it's interesting historically to understand Kant from a romantic perspective, I think it's super helpful, actually, to kind of get inside of Caspar David Friedrich's mind and maybe Percy Shelley. I'm not even sure William Blake would agree with a lot of, again, there's a little bit more profane. So there's a little bit more Dionysian, songs of innocence and experience. Right. So anyway, so we're going to go more into Kant. So let's continue. Stuart Reed, 111, getting there, brother, getting there with quick intro helps. Yeah, which I struggle with at the 15-minute mark here. I like the long videos, but I know all the YouTubers say shorter ones do better. And yeah, so I'm trying to balance, really, ultimately this is a journal. So I'm just trying to make it true to that and true to the content. In a sense, like be true, in a sense, the goal here is, put it this way, who doesn't want a huge audience and where we're talking to 200,000 people, right? What does that mean for the artists? What does that mean for me personally? What does that mean for anybody that starts like being a part of this, right? It's very fun to think about, but it's more, I guess that's not the end goal. Because I was bringing this up, but as an artist, it's a very useful exercise to take the buyer's point of view, the collector's point of view. You have to be practical. Even as a digital artist, maybe you love digital, but it's probably a good idea to make some physical. Why? Because the wider world maybe thinks you'll have more credibility. If MoMA's looking at your work and you have a bunch of sculptures, paintings that are equally as interesting, then you look, as we've discussed many times. So all to say, so I'm not overly concerned in a sense. It's not about simply doing well on YouTube. Otherwise, I probably would have taken a much different strategy earlier on. Although I'm not going to say I don't want to do well on YouTube either. Of course I do want to do well on YouTube. So yeah, it's really about trying to balance and it actually not take up too much time in my life, or take a little less time, but still get the same kind of output and maybe even make it shorter, which would then have mass appeal. And so, yeah, and I think you understand what I'm saying. Who knows, but maybe you could do 2 videos per show, a long uncut version and a shorter clip version, maybe 10 to 20 minutes, showcasing most of the art. I know editing is a lot of work. It would just be more work, exactly. And basically, this doesn't make $1. This show right now, I haven't turned on the ads even. I could, or at least apply to turn on the ads now that there's over 1,000 subs. And I may actually do that, but let's see. So right now that would just be more work, but interesting. I do want to make these under an hour, which I don't know if I'm going to succeed today, because at least then I can upload to TikTok, which I think is also super interesting. Anyway, thank you, Stuart, for the comment and the feedback. Very helpful. Ed Marola, loving the philosophy talk. I wonder, though, how we can demolish all those white Euro castles of colonial power, understanding deeper how those phenomena we call arts are present in people's life across the planet. This is another thing, actually, about, you see, like, it's almost like the height, the word colonial. When was the height of colonialism? It's probably from 1492, Columbus, to maybe, I don't know, World War I, World War II, right? When things started to go in the other direction. So for these guys to be, we saw 1807 for the phenomenology of spirit. You look at the literature of the time, Orinoco by Aphra Behn, considered sometimes the first novel in the English language, but that's kind of a big debatable point. Or one of the early, I think actually late 17th century, right? Predating Clarissa and even Gulliver's Travels. We do see, this colonialism theme is powerful, and you also see the mindset of earlier generations, and it's never fair to judge earlier generations from today's kind of mores, so to speak. We always have to say, people grew up in a certain context. There has to be not total forgiveness, but there has to be some understanding, is how I would put it. Especially, and I would never advocate, finally, not to go on too much of a tangent here, forgiveness for the horrific, these slave ships. We have to come with understanding. Not necessarily forgiveness, but understanding to at least, people grow up in certain societies. I mean, this is one of the huge ironies. It's sort of, and I don't want to get on this whole topic, but it's like the founders of America, and it's like these weird contradictions, they had, as far as I understand, some of them were slave owners. But then there are these, in different contexts, it's like, oh, they founded the American Republic, and how great is that? Right? And these are kind of issues that are being worked out right now. But what I would say, just to bring it all back home from these very controversial, tricky, thorny issues, is let's not forget when these guys were writing. And I think it's more about understanding. I find Kant, for example, more helpful in understanding the artistic mindset of the time. Some of it. Romanticism, I would say, rather than necessarily informing our discussion. And when I was going into, say, techne, the Greek word, to me that's trying to inform our current day discussion, things that still are relevant. So anyways, but I kind of really, I think this is not an uninformed use of this word. I think it's a smart. I think it's appropriate. Let's put it this way. And just the hubris. And just a final thing on this. And of course, here I'm going to break an hour again. One very important point that is actually one of the most key things in, I would argue, Platonism or Platonic dialogue, Socratic thinking, however you want to put it, is short answers. Like Socrates, when he was dealing with, I think, Gorgias, maybe it was Protagoras, has a big argument saying with one of these sophists saying, can you please keep your answers short? Because when you give me these long answers, what am I going to do with that? Right? And what do we have with Kant and Hegel? We have these massive answers with no kind of feedback along the way. So I'm just kind of left like, it's almost useless to me. Almost. There is, there's a lot of smart thinking there, and we have to be humble. But in terms of like actually, I'm learning their model. I'm not necessarily getting somewhere, though. Maybe I'm coming to some understanding, but it's more of a historical understanding. Anyway, we've gone on quite a tangent. Very, very often through the passive spirituality and organized religions, also celebrations and funerals and rituals. But guess what? It seems through the lens of an amateur anthropology interested artist. Of course, Ed, I believe, studied anthropology. He was mentioning that on the space we had. In the end, we are better off asking questions than making arguments. Indeed, because we are postmodern, hyper-connected internet beings, and the world is much bigger than our little brains can comprehend. Back to humility. And I think Socrates would totally agree with you. We're better off asking questions than making some long 500-page argument about how the world is supposedly is, and how art supposedly is. Let's continue. Rune 2. But Adrian, that's the point. Referring to Kant. There is no distinction between high and low art if you give credence to Kant's ideas on art. So I need more explanation here. Rune 2. And there is art and non-art. No capital A needed. Okay, so I brought up some Kant here. I know it's semantics, but the conversation from the previous journal was all about that. Ed said, what is art? So I'm not convinced that it's a black or white issue. As far as art, again, I think it's actually, for me, there's not much difference between a website design and a painting other than one crucial difference. Again, I just take kind of a different approach to this than what we're going to see here from Kant in a second, which is there's an irrational component to it, which often uses similarity, like or as, similes, okay, and association. There's an underlying kind of logic that maybe speaks to human nature sometimes. The color just works. We don't know why. So again, these ratiocinations from Kant, you have to explain to me. Don't make me do all the work here, Renton. Put out a video or explain further. But you're dropping bombs on me, and you're not explaining Go into it, if is what I would say. Let's continue here. I'm going to go into it a little bit. Okay, so I actually asked, relating to your question, I was like, well, let's see what ChatGPT has to say about this. How does this relate to art and non-art? And they actually just restated the theory. Kant's theory of aesthetics, as outlined in his Critique of Judgment, provides a framework for understanding how we distinguish between art and non-art based on the qualities of beauty, the sublime, and the role of genius. Here's how his ideas relate to art and non-art. Art and disinterested pleasure, which already is totally troubling, and I'll show you why. Art is an object of disinterested pleasure. According to Kant, true art elicits a disinterested pleasure, meaning that the appreciation of art is not based on personal gain, utility, or practical purposes. And this is just so debatable. The appreciation of art is not based on personal gain. I would argue, as I have in previous episodes, art is a kind of knowledge. Art aesthetics. This is a kind of knowledge. So when you're appreciating art, you're learning, I would argue, about beauty, the nature of beauty. So is that not personal gain? Is that not utility? Do I not become a better artist when I look at art? Is that not practical? This quality separates genuine works of art, basically having none of these things, from objects that serve practical or utilitarian functions. For example, a beautifully crafted chair may be appreciated aesthetically, but if our appreciation is primarily based on its comfort and utility, it doesn't fulfill the criteria of disinterested pleasure in the same way a painting or a piece of music might. So, again, a very Apollonian, I would argue, pure view of art, purposiveness without purpose, art and purposiveness. Art embodies the principle of purposiveness without purpose. A work of art appears to be designed with a purpose, yet it does not serve any practical end beyond its own existence and the pleasure it provides. And this is also completely debatable. And I asked, before I go down here, I asked did Kant give specific examples? And he didn't. But then it's like, okay, the Mona Lisa, we could all agree, is a work of art. Does it not have any practical end? It is a portrait. It's a portrait so that we remember what that person looks like. It's a beautiful thing we put on the wall. It has all sorts of practical utility. So again, so it's like, Adrian, why aren't you talking about this? It's like, because it doesn't add up for me. And the pleasure, so it's all about the pleasure beyond its own existence and the pleasure. So it's all about the pleasure. I mean, it's almost like a hedonistic view, ironically, it's of art. It's just about the pleasure. This intrinsic purposiveness is what allows a work of art to be appreciated for its own sake. Again, art for art's sake argument, distinct from functional or decorative objects that are evaluated based on their utility or specific purposes. Again, what about commentary? What about Die with the Most Likes? Isn't there a satire there? Isn't that kind of bringing us a kind of knowledge, one could argue, or insight on the society? Isn't that practical? Is it beautiful? I think it is, in some respects, in its creativity and also in its technical aspects. But, I mean, it's, so it's this very kind of narrow, I would argue, view of art. Universality and subjectivity, despite it being supposedly universal. Art and universal communicability. While judgments of taste are subjective, they carry a claim to universal validity. When people consider something a work of art, they believe that others should be able to see its beauty as well. This contrasts with non-artistic objects where personal, to me, this is almost just a fog of an argument. Okay, sure. The role of genius in artistic creation. Now it's about genius. Kant's concept of genius pertains specifically to the creation of art. A genius is someone whose natural talent, so again, this is just more romanticism, allows them to create original and exemplary work that sets a standard for others. I completely disagree. I think everybody basically can be an artist, generally speaking. Maybe not everybody, but almost everybody. We have this talent, and to me, it's this is just over-mystifying the artist, which is something that, again, I completely disagree with. I don't think we need to do that. I think that's part of the problem. as a matter of fact. We have over-mystified the artists so that in contemporary art, people do something that's completely obscure, but we're all supposed to worship them as geniuses. And what we see over time is actually there's no, time doesn't really treat those works very favorably. Very forgettable, a lot of contemporary art, that you see in galleries or biennales. These creations can possess an inherent beauty and harmony that can be universally appreciated. And I mean, beauty, like harmony, distinguishing them from mere technical and functional creations, like, I'm again, maybe the reason I'm so unsympathetic to Kant is because I'm basically saying the exact opposite. I'm saying art is the technical. And that's why you don't need the super genius. It's about coming together with processes and trying different things. And then basically, maybe the most important thing is having the eye to go, okay, the judgment, to go, okay, boom, boom, boom. Now, you're going to say, that's Kant is saying exactly what you're saying, Adrian. Non-artistic endeavors, while they may require skill and intelligence, do not necessarily involve the same kind of originality and universal appeal. Sure, the sublime in art, works of art can evoke the sublime, a feeling of awe and respect that arises from encountering something vast or powerful beyond comprehension. Super romantic. And again, this is, give me an example, a concrete example. I think of Caspar David Friedrich, Der Wanderer, the guy looking off, and maybe we're supposed to feel the feeling of the sublime, which of course was a very important consideration in romantic art. This aspect of art allows it to transcend ordinary experience and engage the viewer or listener in a profound way, again, mystifying the whole artistic process. And the reason why I'm so against mystifying the artistic process so much is because I actually do believe there is a tiny kernel of magic in art that is completely real. And so when we over-mystify it, we're actually doing a disservice to the actual magic of art. And I use magic in quotes. But something that is kind of otherworldly about what art is and does that is hard to put your finger on. And it's related to inspiration. So I just have a completely different kind of ideas here. So I'm totally against this over-mystification of art because it really, I'd argue, does a disservice to the actual, mysticism of art, the actual, but which is much, which is a humble thing. It doesn't need to be, amplified. It's already there, in my opinion. So, and moral and aesthetics, right? And this is another thing, right? Art and moral elevation. Kant suggests that the experience of beauty and the sublime in art can prepare the mind for moral reflection by fostering a sense of harmony and respect for the greater whole. Like, I think, is it Longinus? This idea, which I don't totally disagree with, that art is an educational thing. The part of it makes us kind of morally better people. But is that the whole function of art? Again, this was done in a pre kind of mass media world, like where I would argue, artists like J.G. Ballard, writers, but it's also about rekindling a little bit of feeling. Everything's become an abstraction. We see deaths juxtaposed, war juxtaposed with fabric softener commercials, juxtaposed with, news anchor people, and then, juxtaposed with a soft drink, on and on, and then a car crash. And then, so we don't feel anything anymore. Like we've been oversaturated with media, the death of effect, as Ballard calls it. Where's that in here? So it's just it's a product of its time, and that's okay. And I'm sure maybe 300 years from now, it'll be another situation, but art, therefore, is not only an object of aesthetic appreciation, but also a means of moral and spiritual elevation. This moral dimension is often absent in non-artistic objects, which may not evoke the same depth of reflection or emotional response. And finally, here's art and non-art. Art. Objects or experiences that are appreciated for their intrinsic beauty or sublimity evoke disinterested pleasure, demonstrate purpose. So how do I, say, of course that's what Kant means when I disagree with every part of this? Purposiveness without purpose. Most art has purpose, I would argue. Even if you're doing a landscape, maybe you need to make some money. Or from the other point of view, you're educating yourself as well. And okay, you could argue in some cases, maybe it's just for the pure delight of it. and I'm good. And possess, but again, it's almost a hedonistic view of art, super ironically. And then the universal appeal, they often involve a creative genius and contribute to moral and spiritual growth. So I just think, yeah, okay. Non-art, objects or experiences that are primarily valued for their practical utility, personal interest, or functional purpose. They do not necessarily evoke disinterested pleasure or possess the same universality of appeal. So basically a chair can't be an art piece. And again, so it's almost like this is the reason why we almost have in some museums, like there's this almost disconnect. Like when you have a sarcophagus, Egyptians, the mummy, the pharaoh, and the sarcophagus, is that a work of art? Well, it's functional, it's purposiveness. Like it's almost like the curators don't know where to put it in the gallery. It's covered in, image, and it's beautiful, these things, but they have to, it's like this category, it's not a black or white issue, is what I'd argue. So finally, they may require skill but do not involve the same level of original creativity or moral elevation as art. In essence, Kant's theory helps distinguish art from non-art by focusing on the nature of aesthetic experience, the role of creative genius, and the broader moral and cognitive impacts of engaging with beauty and the sublime. And it's like, I think of Warhol, again, taking this supposedly non-art graphic design and then turning it, transforming it, celebrating it into art. And then you see the ambiguity too in terms of this whole moral argument. You think of Warhol's dollar bill, the dollar sign, which is very famous, which we all know. Is that a celebration of capitalism or is that a critique of capitalism? It's ambiguous, right? So what is the moral elevation? So it's just, again, like, I'm kind of like, this is like, and then finally, what are examples of artworks that Kant refers to, I asked. And as I was mentioning before, Immanuel Kant did not focus on specific artworks or artists in his philosophical writings. His approach was more abstract and theoretical, dealing with principles of aesthetics rather than providing examples from the art world. So, however, to understand Kant's idea that they might be applied, we can consider the following types of art and how they might align with his principles. Bach, disinterested pleasure, music, but I would still argue it gives inspiration. Like, isn't that practical to be inspired? I mean, don't you sometimes get energy? And isn't that part of the reason you listen to music? Sometimes it's focus. Isn't that a practical purpose, not just about the beauty? People put on classical music to study, right? Here, the Mona Lisa, classical paintings. These works are appreciated for their beauty and skill of their creators, evoking a sense of purposiveness without purpose. Like, what are you talking about without purpose? Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling has no purpose? It's basically, like, you could argue it's there to inform the public in a visual way and to show it's exactly the opposite. It's the culmination. It's, if anything means anything, one could argue, at least for Michelangelo and his, and the people at this, at the Vatican, if anything means anything, it's this. It's all built around, this temple of the mind, as I call the Vatican. It's like that is the crowning glory of this temple of the mind, and you're trying to tell me this doesn't have any purpose? Or that it is purposiveness without purpose? Like, so, call me simple. They are considered universally beautiful, reflecting Kant's idea, like as if it's just like some hedonistic, isn't that beautiful, and moving on with my life. Whereas there's Michelangelo, or in that, actually he's in the flayed skin, but there's that guy looking in terror. Okay? Like, I mean, it's almost outrageous what Kant is, what at least ChatGPT is saying of Kant. Okay? So yeah, so it's kind of winding. The Parthenon, again, purposiveness without purpose. Notre Dame Cathedral, like, what on earth is being said here? William Shakespeare was a businessman. Okay, like, I mean, why did, Hamlet, he was thinking of the audience, okay, and that probably helped the work. If he made, he wanted, all William Shakespeare wanted in this life was to move up a class, basically. And then once he did, he retired. It's not like he kept going. He retired. It's like, okay, mission accomplished. These literary works, so Shakespeare and Goethe, these literary works are valued for their artistic method and the depth of their themes, which can evoke profound aesthetic and moral reflections. The universality of their appeal and creative genius required for their creation are in line with Kantian aesthetics. Like, it's all just a big, huge stretch, as far as I'm concerned. So, hopefully this puts to bed the Kant argument, but feel free to show me where, I may be missing things or whatever, or why I should be paying more attention. Continuing on at the 40-minute mark, but hopefully we put that to bed and can get to shorter shows after that. But it's important. I'm really glad to actually, have to tackle that. It helps me refine my views. So thank you for the comment, Rin. And looking forward to a couple hours from now at our great show. That we do weekly with Lily Illo. Lips in Black, really like this one. Thanks, Pocobelli. And again, I completely agree with you. Thank you. Really nice to hear. And Oyeniyi Coyote, short or long, I'll watch it. Awesome. Nice one. Thank you. Awesome to hear from you, K's Works or Oyeniyi Coyote. Little Cakes, enjoying listening to your talk about the words craft and art. Thank you, Little Cakes. Dropkick Pop, cool episode. Thank you. Ile. Awesome. Yes, I'm at minute 14, so no worries about second round. Yes, so you and Waffles are on the short list here of getting some little gifts here. Thank you, Ile, for the comment and everything that you do. The great screenshot photographer, Ile. Design collector, Adrian, are you keeping journal selections curated on Object? I was, but I think when it's short again, when I get this show back to 40 minutes or so, 40, 45, and I am going to force it, as I keep saying, then I can start doing this again. But you'll see a ton. If you're interested in the art that I show, you'll see about like 20 or 30 curations on my Object profile if you go to curations. So there's a ton of artists to discover there. So I do recommend you check that out. And I do hope to do it again, actually. No Hygiene, just drifting equals super. Awesome. Yeah, so No Hygiene putting out brilliant work. Love Rosaceo's work. Papa Bearded. Awesome. Demon Ego, let's get physical. Indeed. Lily Illo, Rosaceo, doing great work. Awesome. See you in a couple hours here. Lily. Filippo Francocci, thanks dear Adrian for featuring my self-portrait of a young me. So this was actually done, I guess, when Filippo was like 13 or 18 or quite a while ago. Really cool work there, Filippo. I didn't realize that, but very cool work. Olivera Durdovic. Love the featured works, Adrian. Also very informative talks and comments on Tezos art. Thank you. I somehow missed that on X. As for the Kantian part, I enjoyed the exchange of opinions with another commenter. I agree with both of you. It's crucial to clearly distinguish between art and craft. I don't think it's crucial, but that's my opinion. I think this is where we go wrong, as a matter of fact. But let's continue. It's crucial to clearly distinguish between art and craft. Art is craft. It's just poetic craft that we're doing here in art, as I keep saying. Anyways, let's continue. It's crucial to clearly distinguish between art and craft, and this distinction needs to be emphasized and discussed more. Flooded with visual sensations, we seem to have lost our ability to discern the difference. Something is either art or it is not. Completely disagree. I do not know why. I try to keep my engagement with art as intuitive and emotional as possible, and I find the real-time philosophizing about contemporary art can be harmful. Such analysis is better left to a certain time distance, whatever time is needed to view an artwork in a broader and deeper context. As one of my all-time favorite people in the world, philosopher E. Sioran said, hope I'm pronouncing that right, quote, nothing more abominable than the critic and a fortiori the philosopher in each of us. If I were a poet, I should behave like Dylan Thomas, who, another, I would say, overrated poet, by the way, who when people would discuss his poems in his presence, would drop to the floor in a fit of convulsions. Like, exactly. Like, that's probably why he's famous. My experience, I haven't read a ton of Dylan Thomas, but I did do a master's in English. And the fact that this guy's quoting Dylan Thomas and that this is somehow a good thing, rather than going, this guy maybe has a mental problem or is, over-mystifying this whole thing and people, having convulsions really about things like nothing. So And my experience with Dylan Thomas was I was always hungry. There would be a beautiful image every so often, but not enough to keep you coming back to Dylan Thomas to read. That's sort of my take. Thanks a bunch for the feature, Poco. So thank you for the comment, Olivera Durdovic. Beautiful work you're making with AI and painting. And quickly here, just the community. Thank you, everybody. Ernesto Ash, thank you for posting. So some beautiful works here that quickly go through here. This is on base. Very cool abstracts. First Syndrome. Hi, Artist Journal friends. I started my object journey today. Congratulations and welcome. As far as I can welcome you. I started my object journey today on Tezos Tuesday. Oh my God. Very cool. So let's put a little heart there. And very cool. Mentioned my first piece, 1970s sci-fi novel, ripped straight from the seam. Well, isn't that provocative? So found? Interesting. Yes. So we'll leave that for now. Could be another discussion there. Ilya Zura. Hey, wanted to share another piece, mixed media, wet printing, and hair scan. Very cool and very effective, isn't it? So interesting. So that's on object. Thank you. Ernesto Ash, another abstract. And Relax with a cool GIF. First work minted on my new foundation base collection, NATO. Interesting. Requiem de la Nuez, digital artwork on Zora. Very cool. A cool digital painting from Requiem de la Nuez and Plague with another piece here, Every Day Until a Bid is Made on Foundation. And there is Rosatio, hilariously, actually, while I was uploading the video. So awesome. Thank you, everybody, for posting. A very fun place. Rosatio, I'm lost for words. Thank you, Poco, for highlighting Anatomy of Memory on your show. And yes, I've been watching since the end of 2022 or the early of 2023. So super awesome to hear from you, Rosatio. Just a gorgeous work there. Awesome. This was hilarious, too. Close. Grokked my profile and not a bad summary at all. Grok, as you see here, Ask Grok, so the Twitter AI, or X AI, and I thought this was hilarious. The Grok AI is mentioning this show. Klasmandu, a Twitter X user, is an artist known for their video compositions and contributions to the art community, with notable mentions in Artist Journal and active participation in the art scene. So that is super hilarious that the AI has picked up this show. Okay, so continuing on. Vincent Van Doe making huge bids here on, maybe not so huge for Die with the Most Likes, 2,140 Tez on this Dying at Circuit City. I noticed because I owned it. Classic. For those that don't know, Die with the Most Likes. Again, Kantian aesthetics just seems to fail when I'm dealing with a work like this. And again, I start with the work itself, right? And does it do something for me? Anyways, just to point, like Vincent Van Doe buying up a lot of Die with the Most Likes work. And if you ever want to see activity, just click on activity. As you see here, putting out all these offers for Die with the Most Likes. And new at Olive Garden 14. So very expensive works. So yeah, 3,500. Wow. For a work. So very interesting there. The Art Detective, Katya Kazakina. Nothing is for sale. Christopher Wool's acclaimed do-it-yourself show. Will it jumpstart his market? So we were just talking about Christopher Wool, the guy who puts the letters on several lines. Kind of a well-known contemporary artist. There's just one part here on page 9 that I wanted to highlight of Katya Kazakina's article. I remember, quote, and here's a quote from Christopher Wool. Quote, I remember when I was in school, everyone knew that, aside from Rauschenberg and Johns, no one made a living doing art, he said. And the money thing just became the focus relatively recently. It was not good for the art world. Very interesting quote from Christopher Wool. His annual auction sales peaked at 114 million in 2015, amazingly. Continuing on, Trippy Collector. I'm also curious to hear about this stuff if anybody else knows. So PNGs generally have better quality than JPEGs, or is this rookie assumption? Also, what are the exceptions? So, yes, PNGs are what are called lossless. They are lossless. So you get 100% the entire image without any lossiness. JPEGs, by their nature, are compressed. And so Generally, the rule is if you're doing photos, you'll save as a JPEG because you do it at maximum. You're not going to know the difference really between that and a PNG, and the PNG is going to be so much larger. But for example, for pixel art, you either use a GIF, which is also just kind of, it's not I guess it's a different kind of format. Let's just stick with PNGs and JPEGs right now. You'll notice mech.txt saves a lot of his pixel art as a PNG, and so will I. Actually, if I'm putting it on Bitcoin, because GIFs will be larger, right? And so PNGs are, and if you had saved pixel art as a JPEG, that's a big no-no, because you're going to get like these fuzzy edges or little artifacts and whatever, even at maximum. Okay, so think of JPEGs as photos and PNGs for stuff like pixel art. GIFs we'll get into another time because we're already at the 50-minute mark. But happy, Trippy, if you have more questions on this, happy to continue discussing it. Super Rare John, 2024 has been a year of heads down shipping. We're almost completely rebuilt Super Rare to be faster and better UX. In the last 6 months, we built a brand new homepage and more curated sections. Dark mode, much welcomed. Brand new artwork detail page, which is looking great. Brand new user profiles. Brand new explore page. So awesome. So Super Rare development continues. Nahiko, NFT platforms are dropping like flies and you're not sure why everybody is panicking. Here's a simple on why NFTs shouldn't be stored on IPFS. Another thread on, it looks like we're having internet issues here, but we don't have time to go into this, but the moral of the story from last show is that another reason to make your work physical is you don't know about IPFS, you don't know about ordinals, you don't know about any of this stuff. So another reason to make your work physical. Lex Doom, I'd really like to see Object.com figure out a way to reward collectors. Perhaps it's a token like other chains. You know, they talked about this in a comment. They put in a comment about a year and a half ago. Thoughts about a token. They may be smart, actually, not to have done that so far, but I know they've thought about it. But it would be great to redeem X amount of a coin based on the number of Tezos spent. Could be a tool to not only reward, but onboard more collectors to the chain. Yeah, so huge collectors, it's just an interesting thought. Limbo. Many people are setting up their Tezos wallet to start collecting on Tezos. Very nice to see this on my timeline. Can the Share for Tez event I made with Retromania and Object have had a bit of impact on this? I want to hope so. I think everything helps. But the animal spirits could be Vincent van Gogh, frankly, spending thousands and thousands of dollars on Die with the Most Likes. Like sometimes it's just big sales. But of course, everything counts, as they say. Tukes used to get thousands of likes on my Twitter posts or X posts. Now it's difficult to get 10. Lucky me that I couldn't care less. I am addicted to art, not likes. And that is the mentality. I agree. Now I have a theory, though. The reason I brought this up is I think it might be because of the election. Because I have kind of noticed this as well, that art posts aren't getting as much reach. And I wonder if it's because of the election. They kind of want to make sure, I suspect, pure speculation, I suspect they want to be the place for the US election. So let's kind of clear the decks a little bit and make way so that the conversation happens here. I suspect that's what's going on because I did notice that as well. Atlas Pop with some awesome photos. You see how good digital art looks when you make it large. Great installation from Sabato at the Moving Image and collab with Tezos. Really can't ask for a better welcoming entering the building. I also appreciate no reference to crypto blockchain. Just keeping it tight and focused on the art. Very good point. That I would like that too. Very cool comment there, Atlas Pop. Great pictures, as you see here. Very cool. Look at that. What a great display. They really did a nice job there. Kareem Safa, 2 weeks ago, Bounce in Rome. This is an awesome museum, by the way. The Gallery Nazionale d'Arte Moderna e Contemporanea. So somehow there's a screen in front of this museum here, and I'm gonna just mute that in case of copyright. And here's a Kareem Safa, basically kind of across the street here. I should say this is an awesome museum, though. Really, I went there a few months, 2 or 3 months ago. Brilliantly curated. Joelle, who works with sometimes work with Richie Houghton. Let's just see here. Yeah, visual artist for Richie Houghton and resident at Fold London. Thank you, Design Collector and Danny's on Fire, for the lovely collects of Rhythm Recursion 04. This artwork will be part of my solo show curated by Object for Ribela Love Nature Festival in Galicia, Spain this weekend. And Spain, let's see if we can watch it again. Like I saw you could, like if you go to Resident Advisor where you can follow all the DJs in their event, like Jeff Mills is going to be playing maybe this week or next week. It's like 36 euros in Malaga. I mean, you can see Jeff Mills for 36 euros in Malaga. Pretty amazing. So Joel, you know, in the heart of festival season there. Runetoon, digital art and plywood. Let us see here. So Runetoon, I think this was the show in Omaha, Nebraska that Runetoon put on. We're going to discuss it next week, actually, on the Spaces. Really cool display here. Digital art and plywood. And there is Runetoon. Project. So very, very cool. Big shout out to Runetoon. And once again, looking forward to the space later today. And thank you for the comments. Zach, I'm speaking at the UN University in Tokyo. Who knew there was a United Nations university? Zach will be talking on advice for early career artists. Yeah, it'd be pretty good advice to get on Zora and Tezos for sure. Cider. Look at this. A cider work. Looks like the mysterious anonymous man from the dream as a ring. A 3D cider. Very cool. And here's a Bazaya, who of course I follow. Keep minting or save works for better market conditions. Meanwhile, I keep creating. So Bazaya building his empire. Very cool. And here's Dan Control with just to me, this is I'm glad he did this screenshot. It shows how amazing this show is. And all so familiar to us, isn't it? Very powerful show by Dan Control. Cedar Plank, speaking of powerful, wait till you see the art this episode as we begin here an hour in. Hexen season. Look at this. So, again, I'm going to shorten this show. We're probably going to do way less comments, but whatever. We're just going to go with whatever works. Look at how beautiful this is. A 1 of 1 went to aw heck. It kind of looks like a masterpiece, doesn't it? Kind of looks like a masterpiece. 10 megabytes, 2024, 1 of 1, went for 100 Tezos at auction. Just amazing, actually. Simply amazing. I don't know what this is, but looks like a person here. Just beautiful digital art making. Hexen Zen. Here's another one. Another brilliant one of faces. So Waffles puts out a couple of masterpieces just like that. And accepting offers at just above. People got it for 20 Tez. Let's play the music, if we can. I mean, how cool is this? Right? Just ready for the Contemporary Art Museum. I mean, just imagine, of course, you couldn't see the National Gallery, Contemporary Art Gallery in Rome there. But just imagine this there. Like, how perfect. To me, it's a matter of time. Your face goes scaling. Not sure what that means. Just rad artist. Here's another one by Kujeb, also Waffles, Sync 23. Continuing the N64 portrait series here. Obnoxious the movie, interesting. And so don't know what it means and not worried. Just beautiful. It is beautiful. Sync 21, my hands on the keyboard. And here is another one. Maybe this would be Kant's disinterested, pleasure, purposeless purposeness, or purposiveness, as they say. Anyway, just another beautiful work by Waffles, edition of 1. And that sold for 2 Tezos and 30 cents. So rewarding people who are on the platform, who are very cool. Here's a work that was just posted to X by Yuri J. So again, just more of these beautiful textures here. So original, this artist, doing really well. And here's three layers earlier of a different work. So removing some of the layers, so a window into Yuri J's process here. Very interesting. Another beautiful work by Nuv 1914 and Tezos. Not sure what that means. Adding a frame here changing the frame a little bit and even changing the color, kind of experimental inside. Very nice piece here. And that went to Klaus, who picked that up. And here's Zozo, a one-of-one interior design birds. Let's see if we can get the audio going. So you see the birds here. Quick little 3-second clip. Birds in an interior. Pretty cool. Interior design birds by Zozo. That went for 30 Tez. And continuing on, Gozo puts out a couple. And I think I saw this as well on... this was in my notifications, but it was also on Unknown Collector. He put out a great feed there. Look at this. Very surreal, isn't it? Very surreal kind of work here. Kind of suggestive. Yeah, very cool work. Sunlick, edition of 20, and not listed yet. Here's another Moonlick. So I guess that's why they were both listed at the same time. Also an edition of 20. So very surreal, animated abstract. I'd be tempted to call this, but not totally abstract. Kind of a surreal animation is actually maybe a better way of putting it. 32 seconds. Amazing. Very cool work from Gozo. Here's Rinny Fish, Inner Child, edition of 5. So here we got some kind of kid figures or children. And here we seem to have maybe the parent, self-parenting, part of Fisherman's Journey. So they seem to kind of go hand in hand, don't they? Cool little textures here. In the renderings, also an edition of 5. Here's Machine on Foundation. Let's look at this. This is another collage. So continuing, also put out that really interesting collage the other day. So another super original collage from Machine. Kind of looks like a couple of goats or sheep headbutting, and a very interesting landscape. Super original artist, digital art by Machine. Well, that's from 2022, interestingly. Eclipsed, here's Rosetio, edition of 15. So another work by Rosetio. And here you see a combination of drawing, digital collage, some GIF animation, and also the texture that we see kind of has, again, always a little bit of a print feel to it. Always has its own feel and almost its own kind of color harmonizer there. Edition of 15 for 10 Tezos and half gone. Here is Rustic Digital Art, Lazy People. And here you can see, look at this, up close and personal with Rustic Digital Art. So very interesting work here, always kind of very arty. It has a strong poetic element in the work. And what I mean by that is almost like a strong, irrational kind of component in the work, part of the Cloud Period, edition of 10, and not listed yet. Here is The Fake's Progress. Maybe one would think, I guess, riffing off of The Rake's Progress by, who is the famous woodcut artist from the 18th century? I want to say William someone. We have to bring this up. We are running late, everything. William Hogarth. It is William Hogarth. Gnome, Homelessness, the new lifestyle choice. So a new work here, edition of 12. We have the failed artist with a bizarre cigarette here, kind of a surreal cigarette, looking like fishing with a huge cigar, perhaps. And there you see other cigarette butts. There is the iconic cast and cigarettes and the McDonald's flowers. And there is the cheese on a stool and a cat looking at everything, a McDonald's, the unshaven. And there is a mushroom in the background, gnome, 86% ale, and everything. And there is the wine, the McWine. So very cool work, as usual, from Wasteman Goldminovich, edition of 12. Here is Kappa Sage, Fear of Falling. I was like, what is going on? Look at this arm here. Very surreal work here in this great hat. And all these figures in the background. Cool, surrealist canvas here, I want to say. Look at these tattoos. Very interesting piece. Very detailed. Look at that. And here, the hat. Very cool. Kappa Sage, 8 Tezos, edition of 10. Look at that. Looking almost sold out. Very cool work. Here is Jake Studios and produced by Juice Bank. So don't want to play too much for copyright, but a collaboration So a bit of a kind of hip hop kind of work collaboration with Jake Studios, doing kind of a interestingly kind of muted background, kind of darker background, Shadow Realm. So cool collab. Here's Runetune, her. So very interesting GIF illustration by Runetune, and here it is, pretty large file. And think of the best freak that you ever had. Maybe a homage to Ms. Runetune, perhaps. So who knows? Very beautiful work, though, isn't it? With this kind of pulsating and beautifully colored work here. Her edition of 4 and sold out at 10 Tezos. And continuing on, here is Sui Soichi, Carrier of Light, first piece of Faded Melody, 1 of 1. So just another super original work here, kind of taking a manga-like illustration and kind of glitching it and digitalizing it and everything. Just super interesting. Look, speaking of interesting, look at Sophie Ogura with this tiny work here. Maybe I can make it bigger. Edition of 10 for $5.30. Look at this. Tiny, tiny work. I wonder how big that is. Looks like maybe 250 by 250. It's like almost like a little bigger than a Google ad, right? Very, very, very interesting. Small work, very charming. I mean, small works, the older I get, like I have a thing for small works, and a lot of people do. I'm not alone there. Small Warhols with the massive Passepartout. Anyways, Murakit, Music is My Life, and I don't think this moves, but just an interesting, kind of looks like a live performance musical. So it looks like doing a flyer. Very cool. Murakit doing a flyer. That's on Zora. Here's Xerox. Very cool work, The Heretic. I'm not sure where it was listed, but explanation here and all sorts of thought clearly going through this work here. 53 retweets, 200 likes. It's pixel art, illustrated glitch, vector, gradients, and cycles. Before crypto art, or really even outside this little corner of the universe, purists would draw lines between most of these domains. You're either a pixel art purist or you're not. I think the best example of heresy throughout history has come to show the power and logic and beauty of stepping over those lines while respecting the original school of thought that birthed them. And finally, this piece was a blind commission I accepted from 6 to 8 months ago. Was paid in full day one. Told to do what I wanted before 2025. It's done now. Thanks for the trust. Trust is everything. Amazing. So there it is. Very cool work here by Xerox. Continuing on, Uxine with a sketch playing off of The Last Supper. Beautiful sketch, isn't it? And here's some skulls, the Uxine colors. Very nice study from Uxine. And here's Santiago playing with a different kind of gifizing or animating the color of one of his abstracts. Happy New Week. And here, where do you see this thing? I hope you had a great week. Look at this thing. Pretty amazing abstract here. Wow. So digital collage, AI collage. I mean, wow. Pretty wild stuff. Gon's Gen Friends, Sweet Dreams. So another beautiful abstract here. And here's Cider with an interesting post here. Again, beautiful textures here and everything. Almost abstract, but you can kind of see a face there. Nice piece there. And here's Martin Bruce as we cruise through this episode now. So beautiful work posted on X. Very interesting rendering here of the kind of digitalization of this, what looks like a photo, but then we have some brushwork. Again, going through using different techniques, including photographing the screen and many things. So hard to explain the unexplainable from Martin Bruce. Here's another work, Fortuna. Beautiful. Look at this, especially when you look closely in there, these great colors and everything. Interesting title, just a enigmatic artist. Martin Bruce, 10 Tezos on Object, just released. Here's Cap'n, Watch It Bend, or Figments, I should say. So a new one from Figments. And there is the Figments figure and all of this digital life. And interestingly, what is that? I feel like I've seen this kind of code before. Edition of 16, sold out at 8 Tezos each. Nice work from Figments. Here is mech.txt edition of 20, and I think these are just transferred so far. And here you see the the and run. Here you see some of the kind of works. What we the tiled kind of video game inspired works by Mac.txt, 36 frames. Here is Haiti Rocket, edition of 4. Very cool work here. Rad, playing with the text here. Dope, GM, totally dope. Very cool work as usual, and selling for 23 Tezos to John Cates before the rest are burned, edition of 4. Here's Silva Santus, also doing a Nintendo Glitch ROM, GM. Good morning, good night. So interesting piece here. With all of our very long discussion on Kant at the beginning of this episode, I feel like it's still going to be shorter than some episodes here. Amazingly. Here's also, I think it's also Silva Santus. This is on Zora with another cool glitch ROM here. As you see, beautiful. Just digital kind of chaos, beautifully. I love the glitch ROM, as many of you know, genre. There's John Cates, again, picking one up. And here's Kyle Flemmer with what looks like a still that is glitched away from a screen recording of Bass and Black Bass with Hank Parker for SNES. Glitched with real-time corruptor. Interesting still. Definitely has that video game look. Almost looks like an abstract, right? Here's Anis Abdin, pixel art in 5 colors. So day 205, putting out a work every day. And you see the beautiful light on the snow of what looks like a subway car. Here's Element Lee, poem writing. The colors are inspired by 90s letter paper. So interesting inspiration there and very minimal color. A beautiful work from Element Lee. Here's Kyle Flemmer again, Destination Unknown. So beautiful. We love this one here. There is a ship, Destination Unknown. Just awesome. Beautiful. Look at this great glitching that Kyle Flemmer is doing. Sold out at how much? At $350. Good work, Kyle Flemmer. And here's Kurt Hustle Collective. This is actually pretty hilarious. Let's see if it plays.
You have selected news.
So this is like the off-kilter remix, I think, of the other news. Action news. It's like way more glitched out. Pretty rad. It's funky. It's hard to stop. I mean, wow. Edition of 1, so we'll see who ends up with that one. Klaus, composition 247, so looking interesting, keeping it original here. Beautiful colors as ever. Maybe it's all of this kind of going from one thing to another, and you just end up with these colors that you'd never get otherwise. Again, like these are all the equipment, all of this is being basically filtered through. Very cool. Marcel's Underground LA, Secret Gardens, and Luminous Fog. Interesting piece here. So Alice, or is that Alice in Wonderland? And then just some digital imagery here. Very interesting piece. 5 Tezos at auction, edition of 1. Here is Walk, Caterpie. I think also from the Pokemon collection. And here, we got a couple from Renki. Look at this, Obaku. Almost topical here. Beautiful contrast. What looks like a target there. Yamaseki Renki. So, this is maybe a different... Oh, no, this is Renki. A really cool one from Renki here as well. So, just super interesting work. Here is Joel. And a couple of works on Object, and I'm not sure, not listed yet. So, again, one wonders, probably for some of these festivals here. I think Richie Houghton, he was just in Argentina, and I think he's going to Europe. He's probably in Europe now. So maybe this will be for one of those sets. Kind of would fit pretty well, wouldn't it? So, beautiful work from Joel. I think we have another one. Super minimal, just like Richie Houghton. Rhythmic recursion. So these are probably things that'll go on the back of a festival, as we were seeing at the earlier part of the show, earlier in the show. Very cool artist on Tezos, Joelle. Been around for a while. I remember her when I did a 909 way back when. She was supporting that way back when. So that was awesome. I think she bought a couple, actually, and sent it to Richie Houghton, which was awesome. Shout out to Joelle. Ed Marola. You're a constellation of tiny bubbles, and that's why your actions are acceptable. So Edmarola, taking one of his works and turning it into a 3D rendering. It looks pretty rad. Kind of weirdly original, I'd say. Pretty cool. Sky Goodman, silly. So here, of course, we see Sky Goodman's sneakers. Always kind of tricky to navigate these things. So kind of a cool digital sculpture from Sky Goodman, edition of 11. And here, Kantian rhizomatic draw. More interesting AI. If you're looking for kind of off-the-wall AI, Kantian, always super original. Stable diffusion output made with prompting changes. Very cool. Laura. Never heard of that one. Here's Alex, AKF Kinga, with a cool, AI work, and other AI works, actually, with VR goggles. Interesting pieces from AKF Kinga Fekete on Instagram. Here's Joao Salazar with a beautiful, very three-dimensional or textured work, physical work. And here's, as we go into the physicals, Donnie O'Donnell. Beautiful. We've seen this style before, but look at how beautiful this is getting. Moved from St. Louis, Missouri. Maybe it was a commission. If that was a commission, like, how happy would you be? Joachim Official, look how beautiful these are. Miles Davis, he's with Kristen Yellerdy Gallery. We've focused a lot on those artists in the last few months. You see why. Like, look how beautiful this is. Very art looking. And here's another one from Nugget Brain. Look at these. I had never seen these ones before. There's Minesweeper in a calculator on a Windows desktop. So just very cool. There's some great stuff on Nugget Brain's Instagram right now, if you want to learn about the artist. Some of their show, see the artist, and look at that, just classic, great humor. Look at the Minesweeper piece. Brilliant, 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 and of course, Die with the Most Likes with a beautiful work here. Art tourism, very cool. And here's Walk, Maria Callas, a beautiful portrait. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And that is your show, my friends. Thank you for joining me. Until next time, take care.